Hey guys, this is Cal Knight here, and I'm going to give you the breakdown as to what an actual watch trader is. So a watch trader, most people are like, what the hell is that, right? It's something that's a relatively new word in the industry, and there's a lot of confusion and misperception around what a watch trader is and how that differentiates from some of the other dealers and businesses out there. And a watch trader is a very important piece of this ecosystem. So it's very interesting to see how this person, how this entity, how this business, like we are as watch traders, fit in, and where you can navigate throughout the system to really add a lot of value to the entire watch industry and also make a lot of money. So at the top of where everything starts, we're typically starting at the manufacturer level, right? So this is your Rolexes, your Audemars Piguet, your Cartier, the folks who are actually curating and crafting these luxury timepieces that take years to perfect. They are the ones who set the margins for watches and for timepieces, and they know what their cost is to make each individual one. And then they're starting at the top of that food chain, right? So there's this distinct connection between watch manufacturers and naturally through dealers who are next in line. So the dealer in the watch industry could be someone who is a large retail type big box dealer, like the Tourneaus, the Govbergs, some of these other type of big shops and jewelry stores that have multiple marquees and multiple brands under their name. And the dealers are the ones who have a lot of overhead typically. So these are folks who have operating costs, they have the brick and mortar stores, they have to essentially buy a certain amount of allocations from the watch manufacturers every year and move certain amounts of units to be qualified as an authorized dealer. Now, the level of type of dealer you can be in the watch industry can vary. So you could be a very multinational global type dealer who's doing a lot of volume, or you can be one store, one shop, one brick and mortar, or do a lot more of your business online and have one presence. But typically when we think of dealers in this economy, in this industry, we're talking about people who have those operating expenses and are directly tied into the watch manufacturers. Sometimes they will have pre-owned timepieces, but oftentimes they're selling brand new timepieces and they're connected directly to the manufacturer. Now there's some debate in the industry as to whether a lot of these dealers and boutiques are going to go out of business because the manufacturer is starting to think about selling directly to the consumer on the internet. So that's another conversation that we will share in terms of the information we provide in the Watch Trading Academy. But I wanted to frame up for you exactly how this works before really getting into what a watch trader is, which is what we do. So the dealer is the one who's selling to the end user, the collector, the enthusiast, the person who may either know a little bit about timepieces or just wants to get educated on timepieces. And they're also selling to wholesalers sometimes, but not frequently. Oftentimes they will move around and sell directly to the end user, and these are typically the folks who are paying the biggest premium and the most margin for these watches. So when you get between the dealer and this end user, this collector, you have what we call the wholesale market. And wholesale could be a very large business that is, again, global, that moves a lot of timepieces and units for a smaller profit margin. Or it could be someone who's just an individual who is either buying from a dealer, selling to their own end users and collectors, or they're moving some of these timepieces that don't necessarily go directly from the manufacturer to the dealer. They go to the gray market, which is an entirely different market of where timepieces aren't necessarily shipped directly to the dealer, and their margins are less. So typically wholesalers are more agile in the sense of not having as much overhead, but they're moving a lot of volume and their margins are typically somewhere in, I say, the 3 to 9% range on the units that they're selling. Dealers have bigger margins. They have more expenses. They have more operating costs. They have more structure around what they're actually selling. So their margins can be huge and they have to cover their base costs. So it's interesting to see the difference between that gap and how the profit margins get smaller as you start moving that volume that's just wholesale level versus having to deal directly with the manufacturers where you have a responsibility to that marquee to move certain amounts of units to cover your operating costs and to build out this entire brick and mortar store where people come in and have to be educated on these timepieces. So as you go further down the ecosystem, you get the collector enthusiast and the end user. So these are the people who are either just buying one or two watches because they like luxury timepieces like Rolex, AP, Patek Philippe, or they're a little more educated, they participate in these forums, and they want to start a collection, and they want to be educated, and they want to know what they can get and hold as a long-term investment and value. And there's a lot of opportunity to educate this field and get them more into timepieces and buying more if you're not screwing them over, if you're not making destructive type margins and just looking for a quick buck. So you're gonna ask, so what the hell is a watch trader and where does this fit into all of this system? Well, the watch trader is essential because we are the plug. Draw a little plug. It's a nice little watch plug right there. So we connect all of these levers in the ecosystem and can segue and move in and out of all of these different levers. So this is fantastic because we have the flexibility and the agility to buy, sell, and trade some of the highest end luxury timepieces, deliver them to end users and collectors, still work with wholesalers if we need to buy units that are a little less priced, work with dealers to build relationships and buy units that are new, and then also we never usually really talk directly to the manufacturer unless we get through the industry long enough to make the headway. But we can still get tied into networking with the manufacturer, but typically that's left to this relationship. And it's okay because as a watch trader, whether you're an individual or you're an entity of traders, kind of like think of Wolf of Wall Street where you're all out calling people, brokering, you are the watch plug. So whether you're in real estate, whether you're doing this full time as a watch trader, whether you are a car salesman, whether you are in any industry, you want to be known as the go-to person who is a consultant, who is on your client's team to help educate them on how this all works and get them whatever they want. And the amazing thing is you can source all these watch deals from these levers of the ecosystem and sell it to this end user without any of the overhead expenses or costs that this section does have. You don't need all these like marketing expenses. You don't need to have this glass brick and mortar store. You can have an online presence, and you don't even need to carry all of that inventory. Because if you have a strong enough relationship and a network here, you can move all of these units for a profit without ever having to take title to them. So it's very interesting. And your profit margins can literally be all the way upwards of, 275% if you do it right. But the thing that's important here is your profit margins will vary. Like they're not structured. And that's important because you could do something at 5% just to get a deal done to make your customer happy. Like say they want a Rolex Datejust two-tone 41 millimeter. You can source it from a dealer, wholesaler, another private entity that is a customer of yours, sell it to them, or you can literally get a watch on trade and make 275% margin, but you got it in at a trade because the person who is letting it go to you trusts you because you're not necessarily one of these dealers who they know is looking to crush them on their profit and go and trade that out or resell it to someone else or make it work where you're in this piece at a really good price, you don't have all the overhead expenses and you're still making killer margin. So being a watch trader is really cool because you can kind of position yourself in the market however you feel appropriate. And by that I mean, a lot of times what I'll tell my folks in the Watch Trading Academy when they ask me how they should position themselves, I say, look, you can be a full-time watch trader and you can say, I am a watch trader, but that may also generate some confusion or some perception that you might not necessarily want. So for example, there's a lot of collectors and there's a lot of enthusiasts who think that traders are someone who is like coming in the market and not valuing these timepieces and they're just trying to make a quick buck, but that's not true. If you're a real watch trader, you're actually stimulating a lot of this economy between everyone, you're educating the end user, and you're really generating more sales for everyone all the way around. So if you do a good job, they'll start looking at this as a very positive thing, and that's the actual truth of what a watch trader is someone who's very valuable to this entire ecosystem. So what I tell folks to do is, even if you're just someone who's working a 9-to-5 job and you're still making money trading watches, definitely act like a consultant. Position yourself as, I am a luxury asset manager. I am someone who is a timepiece enthusiast and educator. I am a timepiece consultant, and I also am a real estate professional. So you don't have to come off as this person who's a fraud who's saying like, oh, I trade watches and that's all I do, but I also have a job as a pharmacist or a doctor. Like you can position it so you're educating people on the investment grade of some of these timepieces while making money, whether that's part-time or full-time. So in the Watch Trading Academy, we really get down into how to leverage this and be excellent at it. But I wanted to give you guys a stronger sense of what a watch trader really is. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal place to be, especially in the age of the internet, where you can do a lot of business online and you don't have to carry a lot of the risk that comes with the inventory or losing some of this stuff, when you can be very agile, plug people together and be the plug. You are the value because you are the strongest connector in this ecosystem. So I hope that helped explain, guys. We'll see you soon.